We have so much time, and yet most of us feel like we spend way too much time working and way too little time doing something else. Something fun, something we're really passionate about, something valuable. So we spend our days working, and what we're really doing is anything else than work. We check our Facebook timelines, we check the news, or we watch a 16-year-old Swedish girl fight climate change. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Yeah, me too. So most of us spend 8 to 10 hours in our days working. But what we're actually doing is something different. And then there's a study by a guy called Benjamin Todd, and he says each and every single one of us spends 80,000 hours of our days working. 80,000 hours. That's a lot of time thinking of the years and years that lie ahead of us. And then another study by Harvard University states that 50% of that time we're doing yet something completely different. 50% of the time at work, we're doing daydreaming. Dreaming of a better life. Dreaming of who we were supposed to be. And next to our busy lifestyles, our families, our work, there's simply no time to fill anything else in. The daydream remains a dream. What if you could do something else than daydream? What if in your 80,000 hours, you could do something else than follow routines or make up a distraction? What if you could make every single hour matter? My name is Bea. I'm very happy to speak to you today. When I was asked to talk here at the TEDxKuchl, they said the overall topic of the event would be future needs confidence. And I said, you spread a lot of confidence. Why don't you talk about that? So I was challenged to find a way to kind of spread that confidence, but not only in a way that you're inspired, but also in a way that you can find confidence for yourself. I'm 28 years old, and for a living, I manage global sports events. Right now, I'm working on a football project, which is held in 75 countries. So I get to work with amazing people from all of these countries on a daily basis. At the same time, I get to work where I want, how I want, and when I want. I get to follow my passion for sports, people, languages. At the same time, I keep my balance between pretty much feeding myself, but also following the things that I love most. In the past few years, I have been traveling to and living in more than 30 countries, all the while working with people that I really admire, people in sports, athletes, but also great colleagues from all of these cultures and backgrounds. Now you have to imagine, as a woman in a football project, this is a really huge task, sitting on a table with lots of men. But confidence really helped me finding my position and kind of making my way. Today I can say that being here, speaking to you, but also leading that kind of flexible life and being able to follow my passion is the best life I could have ever imagined for myself. But also, as you can imagine, I guess you've seen some TEDx talks before, it's not always been that way. I was 23 years old, leading the picture-perfect life. I had a job I really liked, at a company I really admired, and I had a boyfriend. I was living in a house by the lake. My friends and family would have probably said, she's a successful young woman. She knows what she wants, and she gets what she wants. On the inside, though, I was really dissatisfied. I was unhappy, and I couldn't really describe what it was. I just knew that I couldn't continue that way. Worst of all, I started feeling physical changes. My digestion was kind of off. I couldn't sleep anymore. I was always distracted and always in a rush. So when I finally decided to go see a doctor, I came back devastated. I was 23 years old, leading the picture-perfect life, diagnosed with early signs of burnout. What I did next was my only way out. I quit my job, I left my relationship, and I moved away from the house by the lake. What might sound glorious to some of you, taking a complete break and starting something new, was actually really tough. I was 100% sure that the next opportunity for me would be right around the corner. And oh boy, I was really wrong. Next to that, there was a lot of criticism from the people closest to me because they couldn't understand what was happening. They looked at me and they said, "Why would you just leave everything? Why would you just quit? That's not you." Have you heard that before? That's not you? People felt unsettled when the way I was supposed to be was not according to their expectations. But be assured, that's not what we're here for. We're not here for meeting everybody's expectations. And I had to learn that. I had to find confidence within myself to know that what I had decided for is right for me, even though at the time, I really didn't know where I was going. So after leaving my full-time job, I was starting some side jobs, not only to feed myself, but also for self-esteem, because I didn't really feel comfortable with the way of just being home and trying to find something new. I was working at a farmer's market for a while, and that meant getting up at 5 a.m., riding my bike in the freezing cold, and then standing outside for 7 hours, selling fruits and veggies, stacking boxes, and catering to customers. I have to say, this has been the toughest I have ever earned my money in my life, but at the same time, I was really happy. I could quite literally feel my actions bear fruit. And at the same time, there was this little voice inside my head that kept me from feeling totally content, which was other people's expectations. So again, I had to remind myself to find confidence and to not think about what other people might think of this situation, just be happy with my in-between solution. And then very unexpectedly, another door opened. A former colleague of mine called me, and he asked me if I wanted to be a project manager for what would soon be one of the biggest global football tournaments. Now, you have to know, this offer didn't come out of the blue. Before I was leaving my full-time position, I really tried to find something to fulfill me. So I sent a lot of applications. I led countless unofficial job interviews, the kind where you go to the kitchen and you talk to somebody and you invite somebody for lunch and you're trying to find this one thing that fulfills you. And I described to people what I wanted to find. I wanted to be flexible. I wanted to travel more, experience more, learn languages, stay in the sports industry, and work hands-on. And people were shaking their heads, telling me that this kind of position simply doesn't exist. So when I was forced to leave, I left barehanded. And then, only months later, this offer came on my table. And there was one big catch. My former colleague needed somebody to be self-employed. Self-employed. I had no idea what it meant, and in my head there was a million thoughts and things, and I thought about founding a business, taxes, running this business, clients, offers. I was really confused, and quite frankly, super scared. And yet, I knew this offer is too good to say no. So what happened next is that within these few weeks, I founded my own agency, and I started catering to the same industry that I had decided to leave only months before. But one thing had changed. I was in the driver's seat now. I was responsible. I was seen as an equal stakeholder at the table. I was respected as an expert and listened to. And again, as a woman, in a football project, sitting on a table with all men, this felt huge. And I guess some of you ladies can relate to that feeling, right? Again, a good story always comes with a big fail, so we're not at the end yet. I was probably 1 year in, I got used to the term of being an entrepreneur, even though I still didn't feel really comfortable about that. And then my whole life fell apart. Long story short, a big love romance turned out as a massive disaster. Within one day, I was not only forced to move out of my apartment, I also lost all of my belongings and all of my money. Everything that I had worked for so hard was gone. I was 24 years old, and I thought my life was at the end. Without the help of some friends and people closest to me, I probably wouldn't be standing here today. Just imagine if you would lose everything today, what would you do? It took me 2 or 3 days, and I had to find my confidence again. I had to believe that I'm the only person who can get myself out of that struggle. And within a week, I moved myself to a completely new city. I took on a second project, and I kept myself really busy, trying to make a life in this new city and new lifestyle. For 5 months, I then worked on 2 global sports projects in 75 countries. I was currently always on the road, had this one suitcase in a new apartment. I was never there anyhow. And I built my new life. At the same time, I was fighting a fraud trial because of my ex-boyfriend. And then it must have been March 2017. I just came back from a beach volleyball tournament in the United States. And a long outstanding payment from that same ex-boyfriend all of a sudden was in my account. Money nobody ever thought existed, at the very least my lawyers. Within this one moment, my biggest problem had disappeared. All that was left was me sitting at the table, having breakfast with a good friend. Now you have to understand, in these past months, my life had been up and down and crazy. I went through personal betrayal, loss of faith in humankind. I had to move. I lost everything. I was constantly traveling, building a new life. I had to remind myself, what have I learned out of this? What does it all mean? And my answer today is passion. I discovered passion, my biggest superpower, in this scariest phase of my life. Passion was the one thing that made me overcome it, all of these struggles, and passion was the one thing that I was fighting with to not be seen as a victim. Now, in these days, my kind of nomad lifestyle started because I only had this one suitcase and I was constantly traveling. And I discovered that by following my passion and being on the road and traveling and having these experiences, I can actually lead a pretty amazing lifestyle. So I started asking myself the question, why would I even stay here? Why would I stay where my history still haunts me? I always had this big dream of learning Spanish. And I kind of convinced myself that learning a language is something that would motivate me to take this step, but also convince everybody and even my clients that it makes sense to move away again. So I moved to Spain. And I had this kind of secretive lifestyle of being a nomad, so I was worried about my clients leaving me or not understanding. But instead, I really found people rooting for me and respecting me for taking that step, even though I didn't have any idea what the next steps would be. So I had to find role models. I had to find people who have overcome big challenges in their life and still succeeded. And out of all the countless YouTube and TEDx videos and talks and inspirational speakers and books that I was concerning in that time to learn and find my way, there was really one big learning I want to share with you today. It was to stop mentally masturbating and finally get out there into action. In Spain, I then followed that route, and I started taking more time for sports. I tried kickboxing for the first time. I got up at 5 a.m. for meditation, even though I didn't speak a word of Spanish. And I got to know many people inspiring encounters in co-working places and coffee shops. I really started exploring more and worrying less. Nothing could have ever taught me that, if not a leap into the unknown. I had to remove myself from an environment that previously defined me to then recreate completely who I wanted to be, to integrate my passions into my life, but also find balance for myself. Ever since then, I kept on traveling and working, following and integrating my passions, but also finding balance. And I've been 3 years completely without a home. I not only followed my gut, but first and most importantly, my heart. I also found my true purpose, which is sharing this experience of being a world traveler, but also being a female entrepreneur, learning with others, sharing with others about what it means to have this self-confidence. 15 minutes ago, we talked about time. We all have so much time in our hands. What if in your 80,000 minutes, you could do something more than daydream? What if you could find a way to integrate your passions, but also find balance for yourself? What if you could redesign your life? Our future needs you to have confidence, and confidence needs passion to keep a balance. Thank you. Thank you.